Okay, welcome back everyone. This is MrCati. Now I'm going to reference this specific research, Masonic Research Lodge, and their website that contains a PDF specific to all the new findings that I've found as a result of reviewing it. Now I reviewed it only because Jade Helm, back in March when Jade Helm was announced, I suspected then because of the Jade Helm 15, the numbers 15, and while many people I'm sure would immediately think that 15 stands for the year that we're in, 2015, I mean that would be a pretty easy guess for some people, but this number 15 is in fact a hidden coded 15. Now that means that it means a lot more than just the year 2015. Now, I immediately recognized 15 and Google Plus back in March, so no one can say I'm embellishing the truth. I commented in Google Plus that I suspected that the 15 was Masonic in nature because of some symbolism and some other things that were involved in the Jade Helm logo. And of course, if you recall, Jade Helm coded to a 9/11 and two dates, one more hidden than the other. The hidden date was 9/24, the more open date was 9/25. Now, I viewed that as, 9/24 is the hidden date. That's the date something changes. 9/25 would be the day after, which would be a new day and a new beginning for everything, if in fact there is an asteroid impact on 9/24. Now, I used this Masonic PDF because it specifically addresses the 357, and like I said, back in March when I suspected 15 was in play more than just the year, I immediately suspected 357 and commented, and even went so far as to further add that I felt that 357 was indicative of the numbers for the months, future months, because 3 was March, which is when Jade Helm was announced to us. 5 is, of course, May, and 7 is July. And since July 15th is, in fact, when Jade Helm begins, then I felt it important to research this document. But in doing so, the first important item that I came across was a Masonic drawing board that visualizes the 357 steps. That's part of a journey that a Masonic student takes as part of his journey in Masonic teachings and or within the lodge. Anyway, the Masonic drawing board will discuss the 357, and then I'm later after that, because I did a chart and a talking point for each one, but the Masonic 3x3 magic square is important because this 3x3 magic square, of course, adds to 15 in all directions, and I do mean all directions. And so, aside from the fact that it adds to 15 in all directions, the center three numbers for this 3x3 magic square happen to be 3, 5, and 7. And so that forced me, because of this, to research these items to see what clues I could derive, and I did find some clues. I found the most important element that I'm going to add and which I'm going to show. Well, anyway, once I covered the Masonic drawing board, the magic square, and some talking points about Jade Helm, and some symbolism that's involved in this same PDF, I'm going to do basically a Jade Helm code update to the 9/24 date that discusses the CLE. With that being said, let me take you into the first chart. Okay, now this same PDF, Masonic Research document, very detailed, very informative, and I'm going to provide it for everyone to read. I'm going to provide the link. But anyway, in the overall document, as it begins to talk about numbers and 3, 5, and 7, it references a lot of symbolisms, metaphors, things of that nature, but primarily symbolism. And of course, in the 3 category, I would tell you, you got 3 people that died on a cross. There's 3 degrees to Masonry. It takes 3 knocks to enter the door to a lodge. Birth, life, and death is 3. A triangle has 3 sides. There's 3 phases to the moon, and the Holy Trinity equates to 3. Now, I'm going to skip over 5 because that's my talking point. Let me go ahead and do 7. 7. Well, you got 7 days of the week. It took Solomon 7 years to build the temple. It was dedicated in the 7th month, and they partied and feasted for 7 days. Now, you got the 7 C's, you got the 7 deadly sins, and I know 7 is related to Passover in a way that gets a little complicated, so I'm not going to get into that. But 5. 5 is important because 5 is a ritual code number that's in play. 5 represents the 5 points to the star. Of course, now you've also got like the 5 senses, okay? But primarily, when it touched upon the human hand having 5 fingers, it went on to explain in terms of symbolism in very good detail that the human hand, the 5 fingers, has the ability to then 5 as the hand equates to control. Why? Because with the hand and 5 fingers, a human can grip, grasp, and point. Now, this is important because when I got to looking at the gripping and the grasping, I realized, because it made reference, alluded to, like a sword. And then I immediately recall the Jade Helm 15 logo, which I know is coded because it's a coded exercise, and everything that I've shown, of course, I've shown. So when I realized that 5, we're talking with this image and 5 being coded. Why? Because the ritual, we have 5 Walmart stores that closed. 5 is in ritual play. And as a ritual play element, I've already stated that 5, I believe, equates to the month of May. 3 was for March, 5 is for May, and 7 is for July, when supposedly Jade Helm kicks off. But this 5 fingers of the hand gripping the sword made me rethink some things because there is a message here, and they're using symbolism to communicate this message. Now, if it takes 5 fingers of the hand to grip the sword, you wouldn't grip the sword until you were getting ready to do something. Now, the fact that 5 equates to May and 5 also equates to the 5 points of a star, which could equate to a ritual pentagram, 5-pointed star, the inverted star, then it lends, I have this thought that's clear as a bell that says that what's going on right now with Jade Helm. They made the announcement in March. There's been a lot of response, a lot of hype, and of course there's a lot of psychological operations going on as well, because they did it knowing full well it would create a buzz and a stir, which it has. But let's say hypothetically, everyone, let's just think hypothetically, because they're dealing in a ritual. 5 equates to May, 5 equates to the 5-pointed star, 5 equates to the ritual pentagram, 5 is in play, 5 Walmart stores, I'm following a code, 5 fingers of the hand grips the sword. 5 would then denote this is the month that they're going to wield the sword, not July. And then I had to think on this. It's taken me a few days to dwell on this because I didn't want to jump into this so quick. I gave myself a couple of days, and I've had plenty of time since Jade Helm was announced in the media to dwell on this 357, and so in between other things, I've followed up on my hunches, and I've been right. Now, what this means, symbolically, is that in the month of May, This is when the sword is going to be wielded, not July. But there's a reason for this, because it's a timing factor. Wouldn't you want, first of all, they could spend a little over 2 months from May through July, through the end of July, before the impact occurs, because, well, you'd want to it makes sense to me, you'd want to round up all the problem people that you think are problems, Al-Qaeda, ISIS people, all kinds of other people, long before you get into dissidents and politicos and secessionists and, people, veterans and people of that category. But you would want to round up your most problematic people before the disaster occurs. Because, you see, if they're still living and kicking when the disaster occurs, well, then they pose a problem to your plans. So it makes sense to round up who's ever really high priority targeted between May and July. This basically tells me that May is it's suggesting to me, the code and what I know about everything that's happened so far is highly suggesting that 5, the month of May, represents when they're going to get with it, not July. And that makes a lot of sense if you think about it. But anyway, let's move on to the next chart, the Masonic board. The Masonic drawing board clearly visualizes for us the 3 steps that leads to this first level. You could view that as the first 3 degrees of Masonry. And then you go 5 steps, and then 7 steps. Now, the 5 steps denotes the 5 orders of architecture, and then all the other things, the sciences and math, geometry, philosophy, all those things are included in the 7. And so, okay, 3 steps, 5 steps, 7 steps. Now, why are steps important? First of all, we're dealing with a ritual. And by their own admission, in their own words, it's a ritual that is ritualized so that the candidate, or so that the Masonic student, steps on the same step that was the first step to ever be stepped on by everyone before. To be stepping in the exact order that the first step was ever taken is the ritual. Okay, anyway, we know that Jade Helm 15 is coded in a number of ways. It produced 911, it produced 2 dates, 924, a date associated with an asteroid impact in the Atlantic, 925. I look at that as the day after. Now, I also said the 357, because 357 adds to 15, but I said 3 stood for March, 5 stood for May, and 7 stood for July. Now, I would tell you, because it's just something that I noticed before we move on to the magic square. I looked at this after I, added my information here, and realized that 321 is shown. 321 is that key date for the Georgia Guidestones. It's a date that's associated with 1221, the code which I'm currently following and pursuing. And then when I looked at 5, and I said, well, 5 points to 521, and 521 has been shown to us, and so I have to note that. And then I said, well, 721 has been shown to us as well, and so I have to note that as well. But the key thing, I think, to remember from the previous chart is that I believe everything kicks off in May, because that's when the 5 fingers grips the sword, which is the Jade Helm sword. And so they're going to work their way through to July, okay, which is supposedly the start date of Jade Helm 15. But by then, I think they're going to do what they're going to do, like I said, beginning in May. And it's going to run, I guess, as long as necessary, because, even though the exercise supposedly ends in 9/15, 9/11 is supposed to end in Florida, it's still a few days before the 9/23, 9/24 dates. So there's a lot of things I know has to occur that appears as if it's not yet finalized, and it's kind of working its way out as things are evolving day in and day out. But okay, Jade Helm 15 is a code for 357, the steps that a Mason takes in his, and these specific 357 steps are part of the second degree. And so once again, this PDF is the best source document to be able to review all that information. But I needed to show this so you could visualize the 3, the 5, and the 7 and get a little understanding as to why they've ritualized the steps and things of that nature. But there's also a lot more hidden meaning, and I'm going to get to that here in just a second. So with this being in mind, remember, this is just the drawing board. Now, I then discovered that in the same document, you're going to find referenced a Masonic 3x3 magic square. And that's where we're going now. So let's go. Okay, this is the 3x3 magic square referenced in the same Masonic Research PDF. Interesting thing about this is that, of course, it adds to 15 in any and all directions, left, right, up and down, and across. Now, the significance or the importance of this is the center section 357. 357, of course, I contend refers to the months of March, May, and July. Now, the importance of this magic square in revealing something to me was in the same PDF that I'm referencing, because if you read it intently in terms of some of the background information, and it's studious, and it's going to, if you're not used to reading it, you're going to be reading some words that you may not know or understand. But if you give it some time, it may come to you, and if you look it up, some of these things will make more sense to you. But okay, the significance of this magic square referenced in this PDF is that it refers to some key notable figures in Masonry, one of which was Albert Pike. And it talks about the history of these steps, because originally it used to be 36 steps. There used to be the first, the numbers in play back when it was so long and complicated, were the numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 11. And over the many years, and because of Masonic hierarchy and powers and research and things of that nature, they eventually did away with the 11, and then eventually did away with the 9, and so then they did away with the 1 when they did away with the 11, and so what was left was 3, 5, and 7. Now 3, 5, and 7 are only 15 steps, okay, total. But this is the part that's really key, and this is the revelation that I got by reviewing and reading this material. When I read specifically that Albert Pike, because they quoted him in this document, they quoted Albert Pike as saying, well, I'm going to show you what he said in the next chart, because I'm taking the quote. I want you to see it verbatim so that you can see it in your own way based on what he said. But he alludes to the fact that, well, he doesn't allude, hell, he basically states that he believed that the numbers needed to be 3, 5, 7, and 9. Now, I guess he felt that so strongly is that when they built the Masonic Temple there in Washington, D.C., as you cross the street, it takes 3, 5, 7, and 9 steps to enter the temple. So it's significant. And the fact that Albert Pike referenced it, because he referenced it because of ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge. And so ultimately, you're dealing with some very serious elements that need to be considered. And, well, let's move on to the next chart, which is the 9 revealed and how it comes into this play. Okay, because of Albert Pike and these other Masonic leaders basically giving the main clue. I mean, it's a clue that you wouldn't have understood, and people still wouldn't understand unless you kind of play with numbers the way that I do. See, because I already knew that 9 was in play. The fact that it's part of a 3x3 magic square, now this is what's important, because you see, MrCati didn't create this magic square. I didn't put the numbers in here. This is their 3x3 magic square referenced in this Masonic Research PDF. All I knew is that 357 was the code that I was following for the reasons already previously discussed. And because of the Albert Pike and the mention of 357-9, when I looked at this 3x3 magic square, I immediately saw the triangle, the triad, the 3. And in seeing the 3, I then immediately saw what else was important, okay? And this is the part that, you're going to love, okay? Because there's a lot more to this than what I'm getting ready to show you. The 9, the 3, the 5, and the 7 adds to 24, okay? By adding the 9, you create a 24. Now, this is important, and it centralizes the 5, which is why I put an emphasis to May, the hand gripping the sword, because you see, 924 is indeed the number we need to find, but there's much more, okay, much more, and it's going to bring back some Albert Duer's Melancholia engraving. There's an element from that plays into this, and it's going to once again prove itself to you, to me, to anyone who's willing to see that the numbers that I'm getting ready to show you are there and that I didn't create them. And because they're there, I now need to show them to you. Okay? Now, first we're seeing the main number based on this triangle of the numbers 3, 5, 7, and 9, which is a key clue to enlightenment here. These numbers add to 24. Once you add the 9, you create 24. Now watch this. Okay, final chart. Now, I showed you how 357 and learning or discovering that 9 was part of this 3x3 magic square is what allowed me to discover that all 4 numbers, the 9, the 3, 5, 7, and 9, adds to 24. Now this 24 is created through the addition of numbers that are within this triangle, this pyramidal shape, within the lines here. And then, by observing what I had discovering 24, 924, thinking that was pretty awesome, I looked at it a little bit further and I realized, holy mackerel, by applying the Tau cross that was observed and discussed back in the Albert Duer Melancholia engraving, the Tau cross, once again, is where you can, and by doing so, certain numbers will apply to the Tau cross. And by looking at the Tau cross, okay, once again, through addition only. The original 3, 5, 7, and 9 was through addition creates a 24. The second way, the 9 and the 15, 9, okay, you see this 915? 915 going down, 924 at the top. Now, here's what's important about thinking that you see 2 numbers that are key, 915 and 924. But there's a rule about finding something 3 times. Now, if you can find something 3 times, and I'm going to reference once again the same Masonic Research PDF and I'm going to show you the quote on the way out of here to the credits, okay? Why discovering something 3 times is significant. Now, I already know it's significant because it's part of a ritual code, but I want you to understand that it is significant if you do nothing more than just read this document, because I didn't write this document, they did, okay? And so I'm only referencing what they have put out. And so I see what needs to be seen here, and that is, okay, the original 4 numbers created 24. 9 and 15 creates a 24. There's a 24 already here, so you can't really add this to create a 24, but you can, watch this. The tau cross delineates, first of all, the tau cross identifies for us 924, 915. Now, 9 and 15 adds to 24, and what's left outside of the tau cross, the 3, the 7, the 8, and the 6, adds to 24. So, we can find 24 3 times. But 915? Well, here's the first one, 915, right here in your face. Even though, it's sort of, upside down and in reverse, but it's 915, okay? But the bottom line, if you go 9 and the bottom line adds to 15. 9, 15. See it? 8 and 1 is 9, 9 and 6 is 15, 9, 15. And we need the third one. Third one's the charm, because like I said, if we found 24, 924 3 times, we got to find 915 3 times. And where is it? Top line, okay? 4, 9, and the 2 adds to 15. Ergo, 915 3 times, 924 3 times. And so that's what I wanted to point out. But my main concern is for May, Jade Helm, because 915 is when Jade Helm supposedly ends, and 924 is when supposedly the asteroid prophesies to impact the Atlantic Ocean. So, with that being said, you need to understand that finding 915 and 924 3 times in their magic square, okay, this is their magic square, not mine, okay, shows what it just shows here, okay? But there's a reason for it. And now let me show it to you on the way out of here.